Good afternoon and welcome to Audiotree Live. Today's Tuesday, April 24th, 2018, and we're so honored to have with us in the studio, Rosetta. You're watching Audiotree Live, and we're in the studio with Rosetta. What's up? Welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming out. You can go ahead and retune or do like whatever you need to do in the moment here. I saw a flyer for the third annual Low Volume show with Restorations, who is an Audiotree alum and a badass band in South Philly. I'm just curious why you started doing low volume shows and sort of what that means. You're a pretty high volume band, so I can't imagine it's like acoustic, but yeah.
I mean, the original low volume show actually happened in Beijing in 2014, and that was not something that we did of our own volition. It was something that was set up for us by the guy who was booking our tour of China, and he basically just wanted an after party. The venue was a tiny little coffee shop that was, probably about 150 square feet.
Yeah, and so you're not about to do this in that space.
Yeah. So no way to even fit our back line into the club anyway. Just a very low-key environment. So we just showed up and plugged our instruments into some combo amps and just left the earplugs out and had a nice time.
And luckily, I had brushes with me.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I was going to say, what was your role there, or yours for that matter? Like, how does guys play in there?
It's an interesting process because I think we were all surprised during that experience how well the songwriting translated into that context.
Okay.
And it just felt like a really, really natural thing. I mean, I think there was a lot more room for what Armine does with sampling and with electronics to breathe in that context.
Sure.
I kind of was feeling like, I'm really paying attention to my right hand technique, and the drums just had this beautiful shimmering sound to it, and it was surprising to us that it was that cool. So it was something that we decided we wanted to keep doing.
Cool. Yeah. Other thoughts on that, or generally agreed? He kind of covered it.
We're teasing the idea of doing a whole tour like that at some point, maybe at the end of this album cycle, just kind of change of pace and exploring some of the new songs in that context. And yeah, just seeing where it takes us. It's kind of a fun thing when you get blasted by your amp.
For sure.
Night after night to just change it up and feel like it's chill. It feels low pressure, low volume, low pressure. So we really like that.
I'm curious, like, not that you guys are particularly old, but like, do you think that age, pushes you in that direction? Like, do you think about like, man, I'm just fucking sick of my ears hurting like every day?
Earplugs
for a month, and then you're like, hey, it would be nice to just step away from a microphone for a while on tour.
For sure. Yeah, and earplugs, right? Like, keep that cool. Okay, sick. Yeah, well, that would be awesome to see you doing some low volume shows, so it would be cool. Go ahead and go into your next song when you're ready. You're watching Audiotree Live. We're in the studio with Rosetta. Hell yeah. Oh, man. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is awesome. So I know that nature and environmental issues are important to you guys, specifically shown through the themes in Utopioid. I'm curious if you've done any like hiking or nature walking or gone to any national parks, this year or on this tour?
Yeah, man. It's kind of it's the real joy in touring for us is getting
Yeah,
out.
it's getting out.
Aside from playing music. That's
Sure. That's like one part of it, but
little measly part of it.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a pretty rich history, rich tradition of getting out into nature as much as possible. Our buddy Johnny from Oh Brother lives right near
cool.
Stone Mountain,
Yeah,
Georgia. So that was kind of the nature kickoff for this tour. He took us on a nice hike with his dogs out.
Cool.
Dude, we got 5 miles in. It was a great day.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, so you're doing, I mean, that's pretty serious then. You're doing like some actual hiking. It's not just like...
We're wearing Vans or whatever, but it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when we can.
Sure.
And we love water, and going swimming has been a thing that we've done a lot of on tour over the years. Just any natural body of water that we can get our bodies in, we're happy about that. We went swimming on Key Biscayne, south of Miami, a few days ago, and just saw a stingray in the water. And I don't know, that's such a magical and miraculous thing to just run across this beautiful and amazing wild animal when you're just out wading in the water. And
yeah, for sure.
It's really inspiring.
Humbling in that way.
Yeah, for sure.
We went to the Redwoods, and I'd been there like 10 years ago, but my wife and I went this year. And like, I felt in those old growth forests, you just feel like, not you don't matter, but kind of. It's like, man, these things are like 1,000 years old. I think my problems matter, but also no. So I think it's important, I think, to be humbled by that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty good way to hit the reset button on any stressful day too. You know what I mean?
For sure.
For us, like all touring bands, we spend a lot of time in the van, and I think we get along really well, but everybody gets testy and kind of needs that time to unwind and blow off steam. And we just find there's no better way to do it than by taking advantage of any cool natural wonders we might be cruising by. So it's always in our itinerary if we have time for it.
Very cool. Yeah, and you can separate yourself from your phone and like from like computers and stuff like that,
absolutely.
Which is would you talk a little bit? We don't have to get like too deep into it, but about some of the themes. I know of like environmental degradation and sort of the loss that's associated with that, but we were talking a minute ago, like, do you have any, I don't know about solutions, but like, is there hope in any of that stuff? I know like per the Redwoods, there's only 5% of them left. So like it can get really depressing to think about that, but I think it's important to try and find something like positive to work towards. Just do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I read a book a couple of years ago that really changed the way I thought about that, called After Nature by Jedediah Purdy.
Okay.
And he's a law guy, but the argument of the book is essentially that if we're going to do something about the climate, it's going to need to be a political solution. And he doesn't mean that in the sense of our two-party system and it's going to have to be these people in Congress or anything. He just means political in the big, broad sense, that it's going to require a consensus that's expressed through our system of representative government. And so there's a sense in which you can do small things like recycle and reduce the amount of garbage you produce, but ultimately that's not going to save the Great Barrier Reef. That's not going to save the Amazon rainforest or really put a dent in any of this. It has to be a societal level unification kind of a thing. We
like
need to all get
cooperative
behind.
or collaborative.
Yeah, and also accepting this idea of, hey, this is going to cost us something.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just keep doing what we're doing and act like there's going to be a technological or a consumer product solution that
that's
comes
just going to
along.
like fix it. Yeah.
I can't save those things by buying this other sort of stuff. So sooner or later we're going to have to make a choice. Do we want to keep these species, these animals, these trees, these mountains, or even places along the coasts that are important to us, or do we want to keep our cars? And I think reckoning with that has been a well that we've dug deep into to find inspiration for what we do. I mean, I think there's probably more to come on that from us, but we don't have solutions. It's hard, and it is depressing, and it's miserable, but it doesn't change the value of those things. It doesn't mean that it's not worth trying, I guess.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's all there is to be said. It doesn't mean that it's not worth trying, for sure. Well, thanks for sharing. Go on to your next song when you're ready. You're watching Audiotree Live. We're in the studio with Rosetta. So y'all can get ready to go into the last one. And I would just like to ask about this idea of like music consumption as identity, specifically that certain people tend to only care about a band's sound basically if it remains like the last album, or more appropriately the first album, which is generally like, I fell in love with this. And so like you guys have ruined me for that. I'm just curious how you navigate that, because you don't want to outright alienate people, but at the same time, like you want to write what you want to write, right?
Yeah, well, so, and maybe there just needs to be a slightly different contract between listeners and a band. And,
Okay.
And I think maybe we're in a little bit of a different position than a lot of other bands because we are not on a label and we self-release our music, and it's a pay-what-you-wish model. And so we're entirely dependent on our listeners to fund what we do and keep it going and that sort of thing.
So that's a more direct relationship.
Exactly. So, but at the same time, you don't want to get into a headspace where that becomes transactive, where we're trying to make people happy so that they'll pay us money.
For sure.
And I think what we've settled into over time is a sense that our listeners are trustworthy to the extent that they will allow us to grow as people and as musicians, to make new things. They allow us to challenge them, and they're still willing to give of what they have to support what we're doing. So it's not so much about it. Basically, we stop treating music as a commodity, and we start treating it as a relationship where that's similar to patronage models, but maybe a little bit different. We just like that our fans have faith in us to make something that will do something for them, and maybe they won't like it as much as another of our albums, but maybe the next one they will, or they'll like it even better, or something like that. And to just be able to invite them along on a journey with us to grow with us, grow as people, that sort of a thing. We kind of have a joke in the band that if you only like the first album, it's because you haven't grown, you know, and it's sort of like, but at the same time,
no, it's kind of true though.
You know, maybe the first album, you think the first album sucks or whatever, and maybe then your growth path is coinciding with ours. Like, it's okay for people to grow out of things that they liked before. It's okay for our paths to diverge from listeners because maybe we're converging with somebody else.
Sure.
And it's not to criticize people, but it is to say it's a journey. We're on the journey with our listeners. And that's really cool to be able to continue to engage in a relationship.
Yeah, and I like that you've, like, basically, in that sense, you almost curate the people that are listening to your music, because you're saying, like, here's what we've got, and we're growing. You either grow alongside us and you continue to like this, or you can move on. There's tons of other bands you could listen to. But if you're still, like, on board with us, then continue to, like, have this relationship with us.
Yeah, and I think our responsibility to our listeners ultimately is just to do the best work that we're able to do.
Sure.
And I think if we collectively feel like that's what we've done, then that's okay.
Yeah, cool. Others on that, or agreed?
Fully agree.
Cool.
I did just listen to a cool interview with Dave Fridman and John Congleton, and they were talking about that phenomenon. And it got me thinking, I think Dave Fridman said that, you know, he feels like as a producer and one of some renown, he has been in a position often where his influence on the band has been cited as the reason that the current record sucks.
Oh, sure. Yes.
And his stance, and it's perfectly sound, is, well, you think the band made the call, man. You know, like, and every
think
time
it's
that's the
me?
case. Like, so we have that, you know, conversation internally sometimes too, if we get certain criticisms about anything from a technical decision to a creative one. You know,
Totally.
This is the best thing we could come up with, so we're as proud as we could possibly be of it. So
what you got to do is create a fake producer identity and make it that person's fault every time. It was Joe's choice. He made us do it. Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right, go into your last one when you're ready. You're watching Audiotree Live. We've been in the studio with Rosetta. You can check them out. They have a few more days left on their U.S. tour. They're playing tonight at the Beat Kitchen with Austin Exit Peters and our boys in Outrun the Sunlight. And then they're on tour in Europe with The Ocean in May and June or around that time. So check them out if you're around there and get the most recent release, Utopioid, out now. Thank you guys so much for performing for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to awesome people in the studio and sound engineers, camera and lighting crew for making it look beautiful. Keelan on the TriCaster and Ellie directing. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, viewers, for watching. You can support the band by downloading or streaming the session when it comes out in a couple of weeks and send a shout by social media to us or them if you just want to connect. From all of us here at the Audiotree Studios, thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.
Sick. All right, so you guys want to do it for real now?